Hey guys, it's Mrs. Laffey. We're going to do lesson 16, which is two related quantities, part 1. The lesson 17 will be part 2. All right, so we're using equations and graphs to describe relationships with ratios. And the goal is to create tables and graphs that show the relationship between two amounts in a given ratio. That is something you should already know how to do because we've been doing it on our spiral math for quite some time. And the second part is to be able to write an equation with variables that shows the relationship between two amounts in a given ratio. So the warm-up is, which one would you choose? So if you were shopping and you wanted the better deal, would you choose a 5-pound jug of honey for $15.35? Or would you choose a 1.5-pound jar, three 1.5-pound jars for $13.05? So I'd like you to pause the video, do the math, and when you come back, we'll discuss it. So hopefully you did the math and you're back. So in which one would you choose? The $15 one, 15.35 for 5 pounds, came out to a cost of, and I'm going to show my book here. Okay, so my book, and I'm going to write the answers down here. So if you divide 15.35 divided by 5, you get $3.07. And for three 1.5-pound jars, if you divide 13.05 divided by 1.5, you get $2.90. So the better deal is actually the second one, the three 1.5-pound jars. A lot of people automatically assume that it would be the 5-pound jug because we're used to getting more for our money when we have less packaging due to Costco and things like that. So don't get caught. Always do the math, okay? All right, so in the second part, 16.2, we have painting the set. And they're going to be talking about dependent and independent variables. So let's talk about that for a second before we move on. So the dependent variable is the result of the calculation. So the answer. So the dependent variable relies on what the variable is. So if the variable is 2, then you multiply that or divide that, and it depends on what the variable is, right? So the example they use, a boat travels at a constant speed of 25 miles per hour. The equation D equals 25. So distance equals 25 times the amount of time describes the relationship between the boat's distance and time. So the dependent variable, it depends on how far it traveled, right? So, because it is the result of multiplying 25 by the time. Okay, so if you get a boat travels at a constant speed of 25 miles per hour, the equation D equals 25t describes the relationship between the boat's distance and time, right? The independent variable is the time, because t is the one multiplied by 25 to get d, the distance. Okay, so that's a little confusing, and we'll go into it more. But basically, the answer is the dependent variable, because it depends on what the variable is, right? How much the variable is, the independent variable. So we are going to start the first part, which is the table. That looks like this. So in 16.2, on painting the set, we have the ratio of red paint to yellow paint is 2:3. And it says Lynn needs to mix specific shade of orange for the set of the school play. The color uses 3 parts yellow and 2 parts red. So complete the table using the different combinations of red and yellow. so the paint will come out the correct shade of orange. All right, so we have the red paint will be the variable R. The yellow paint is variable Y. So that will come into play later. And then the total cups of paint is T. So if we have 2 and 3, our total cups, that's an easy one, is 5, right? So the ratio of red paint to total cups of paint is 2 to 5, right? So the ratio of red paint to yellow paint is 2 to 3. So if we're trying to get how many cups are in here, we multiplied 2 times 1.5 to get 3. And we found that by dividing 3 by 2, you get 1.5. So if we're dividing, or if we're multiplying 2 by 1.5 to get 3. So 6 times 1.5 would be 9, right? And the total cups is 15. So if we're starting with 20, remember the ratio to get this one is 2 to 5. So in order to, so 2/5 of the total amount of paint, right? So the total amount is 20, so 2/5 times 20 would be 8. 8 is 2/5 of 20. And then to get the second column, you're multiplying by 1.5 again, right? So 8 times 1.5 is 12. And the total, that makes the total cup 20. 12 plus 8. All right, so let's go down here. We have 18. So in this case, we don't know what the red paint is. We need to divide by what? Well, we multiplied 8 by 1.5 to get 12. So we're going to divide 18 by 1.5, and you get 12. Now, there is a pattern, but remember, if you look at the pattern, they're skipping, right? So they go to, they don't do 4, and they go to 6. This one, so it's not every 2, it's every, they're skipping around here, and that tables can do that. So don't rely on it and just go, oh, they're counting by 2s. I'm just going to jump up by 2s, because that's not the case here. So 14, so we have 18 plus 12, which is 30 for total amounts of paint. So 14 we have multiplied by 1.5 is 21, and total amount of paint would be 35. We're just adding those two, 14 plus 21. Down here we have 16. 16 times 1.5, 24, and total amount 24 plus 16 is 40. Okay, now this one they're jumping, right? Because they're not counting by 5s. They're counting, here it jumps to 10. So be careful with that. So you can't necessarily use the pattern again. Okay, so 50, we're going to go divided by what? Well, we said 2/5. So, or we can multiply. 2/5 of means multiply, 50. So 2/5 of 50 is 20. And you can show that, look, 2/5 times 50 is going to be 100/5, which is equal to 20. Okay? So, and then we're multiplying 20 times 1.5, and that is 30. All right? And then we have 42. 42 divided by 1.5 is 28. Yeah, so we're going to multiply 28 times 2.5. And we get 70, sorry. 28 times 2.5. Okay, sorry. All right, So we're going on to number 2. Lynn notices that the number of cups of red paint is always 2/5 of the number of the total cups. She writes the equation. So remember, the first one is R. R equals 2/5 times T, second column. Which is the independent variable and which is the dependent variable? And explain how you know. So this R is the dependent variable. R is dependent because it depends on what T is, the amount of time. And it's also the output. So the independent one is the input, which would be T, and output is the independent. All right, so write an equation that describes the relationship between R and Y, where Y is the independent variable. So R, that's Lucky barking, R is equal to 2/3 of Y. Remember, we were multiplying by 1.5? So this is the second column. So we're multiplying 2/3 by whatever Y is. I'm going to shut the door. Okay. So for number 4, we have the question is write an equation that describes the relationship between Y and R, where R is the independent variable. So we're going to have to do it as if we were going to get this over to that side. Remember, to get Y by itself, we would have to multiply this by its reciprocal to get 1, which means we'd have to multiply this by its reciprocal. So you would get Y is now by itself, and you have 3/2 R. So it would be 3/2 R is equal to Y. Now, we're going to use the points on the table to create 2 graphs that show the relationship between R and Y. So this is the cups of yellow paint. This is the cups of red paint on the bottom. So in the first column, you had 2 cups of yellow paint to 3 cups of red paint. So you're going to go up, this is yellow, so over for red and up for yellow. So 2 to 3 would be here. Okay, so up, over, and then up. And then you had 6 to 9 would be here, and 8 to 12 would be here, 12 to 18 up here, and then 14 to 21, the line in between, and then 16 to 24, 20 to 30, and 28 to 42, which is 28 going all the way here, there's 42. So usually when you do this, if you've done it right, your dots should be in a line and you should be able to connect your dots there. All right, in the second graph, you have, on this side, you have cups of red paint and cups of yellow paint. On the bottom, okay, so on this one, they have the numbers are a little bit different here. So if we're doing, they're reversed, right? So we have yellow paint now on the bottom and red paint over on the side. So the graph's going to look a little bit different. So we have yellow, it would be 3 to 2 because we're going backwards, right? So the 3, instead of 2 to 3, it's now 3 to 2. And then we have 9 to 6, 12 to 8, 18 to 12, 21 to 14, 24 to 16, 30 to 20, and 42 to 28. There. Okay. And they 24. Oops, that's a little high. That's why I did it. So this one's there. 24 to 16 should be there. Okay. So you can connect that. All right. So that's the end of that lesson. You're going to do your practice problems. And then do the best you can. And then tomorrow I will post the answers to that. And I'll put the cool down in Google Classroom as well. And then I will do the Are You Ready for More in Seesaw. All right. Look for emails to get the Google Hangouts we're going to do. Okay? All right. Talk to you guys soon.